Erev Tov. We're in Mesillas Yeshorim Perek Chav Beis. That's about humility, Midas Hanava, and we're in the second half of it. He divides it into two subjects: humility. You could say in Hebrew it's Anvas HaMachshava and Anvas HaMaisa, humility of thought and humility of action. I mean, as he explains, first the person has to be humble in his mindset. He has to be internally humble. And then also there's another issue about being externally humble, that the way that he acts, his mannerisms, his disposition also has to be in a manner of humility. And that's where we're up to now. He says that it's not advised that a person should just work on the second half alone, because then he's just tzavua, which could be translated as an imposter. He's just acting humbly, and he's really not. But on the other hand, it seems that if a person is truly humble inwardly, so then it's not enough. He also has to act on his actions also, that it should be acts of humility. He should act as a humble person. And we ask that you might think that it's automatic. It's if a person is humble inwardly, and he gave all the reasons in the first half of the chapter, so he explained why a person should be humble, why he should think humbly, even if he has qualities, and that was the subject we spoke about a couple of weeks. But now he's saying that a person also has to affect his outward actions also, to act humbly. And it seems that it not necessarily does it follow automatically. A person has to work on it also. So he has to connect his actions to his thoughts, and even if he's truly humble, he might not automatically act this way. It is the actions and the mannerisms of a humble person, but it seems that he has to go to the trouble of doing it also. You have to actually work on it, which is a chiddush. You might think that if he has that attitude inwardly, so automatically he'll act outwardly in the proper manner. But maybe by pointing it out, the person will focus on it, and he'll be able to accelerate the speed of his success in this issue. So we just started the beginning. It's about halfway through the parak, chapter 22. It starts in the paragraph Hinei Dibanu Ad Hena. Me'an Bas HaMachshava. Till now we spoke about the humility of thought. Now we're going to speak about humility of action. Just to point out that also in Gaiva, a long time ago in the Kiyos, when we spoke about the opposite, arrogance, so over there also he stressed the fact of the arrogance, the inward mentality of arrogance, and then also the way that it unfolds, it expresses itself. So it seems to be, especially in this subject of arrogance and the humility, that there's an issue of the outward actions also, not just the attitude, not just the mental understanding. So he says that has four parts. This issue about Anvas HaMaisa has four parts. It's divided into four divisions. In general, a conduct or disposition of lowliness. That way he's going to say the way he'll explain right away. That means the way that he talks, the way that he walks, where he chooses a place to sit, in all of his movements. You could tell that he's a humble person. He might be a faker, but we're talking about a person who's not a faker, a person who's acting humbly. And there's a way you look at a person. This is called the arrogant way of acting, and this is a humble way. And he's going to outline how a humble person would look in these hitnagut, in these conducts. The second thing is called bisfol halbonos, that he's able to tolerate insult. The third one is that he hates authority. He hates his authority. He doesn't want to be the authority. He's not looking for office. He might have to take it sometimes. Sometimes he's forced into it, and he needs to, and he's supposed to, and it's a mitzvah, and I'll get the reward for it. But he doesn't enjoy it. He doesn't like being on top of other people. And Avrohom Akova, included in the same subject, the third division, is that he also runs away from honor, which he's going to elaborate on. And the fourth one is Chalo Kavod Lakol, that he apportions the honor to others. That he's very easy at honoring others. He doesn't want honor for himself, like he just said. He runs away himself from honor, but he's very easy to give honor to others. So these are attributes that a humble person will have in his outward expression. So just to start, we just read, I think last week, just this introduction more or less. So the first one is Echadu B'snaig B'shiflus, his mannerisms, his disposition of lowliness. If this is appropriate to be in his speech, in the way that he walks, in the place that he sits, and all of his movements. And he brings Chazal for each one of these points. Some of the proofs that he's going to bring is not going to be dafka related to Anava. It means if we're looking for proofs for all of these points that he's going to bring Chazal or Psukim, that this is the way that a humble person acts, we're not always going to find it. some of the proofs that he brings that these are the appropriate actions, appropriate manners, it doesn't mean, it's not in the proof that he's going to bring, it's not going to say that it's because of humility. The Sefer, Mesillas Yeshorim, is connecting it and saying that this is the way a humble person should act. And we'll see right away that this fits, it's appropriate, that a person who thinks so, that's the appropriate way to act. But some of his proofs are going to be just on the action alone, that it's a praiseworthy way of acting. But again, it was always to remember that he says if a person acts this way, but he doesn't feel this way inside, so then it's dangerous. And therefore, since he wants to acquire these good actions, he also should first make sure that he's truly humble inside. So he says, the way a person speaks. A person should speak calmly, nachas. He should speak calmly to people. He quotes the Gemara, he quotes it as if he's quoting a text. A person should always speak calmly with people, but it doesn't really say it in the source. It doesn't say it exactly like that. It's talking about over there, the famous Gemara about Chilul Hashem, that there could be two people, that one person is Mechal Hashem Shemaim, the other person is Mekadesh Hashem Shemaim. And does he profane Hashem's name? But people look the way that he acts. Does he profane Hashem's name, or does he sanctify Hashem's name? A person who's learning, studying Torah, and he's considered a Shema Torah mitzvahs, and then he doesn't act honorably in business, or the way that he talks to people is in a degrading way, so that's called Zechil Hashem. People say, this is a person who learned Torah, and this is the result. It's true that he does mitzvahs and he does Torah, but this is the way that he acts outside, so that's Chilul Hashem. And the contrary, a person who acts honorably to people, the way he speaks and the way that he does business, honorable, Masal Matanu Be'emunah, and B'dibur B'nachasim Abrios, that's the Gemara that he's quoting. So that's the Kiddush Hashem. People say that this is the way a person who has Torah, this is the way he acts. He sees that the Torah will refine him. So that's the Kiddush Hashem. The truth is that the Torah is supposed to refine somebody, and if a person would learn Torah the way it's supposed to, so the result would be that he would become more refined and speak properly and do a business correctly and honestly. The Chilul Hashem is because a person is not really integrating and internalizing what he's learning, and people don't realize that it's that there's a short circuit over there. So they say, "Oh, this is what the result of Torah learning is. I don't want it." That's a Chilul Hashem. But the people who see that, the observers, are also supposed to.
Why is he responsible if the people looking are the fools?
They're not fools. It means that the real result of learning Torah should be that he should become good. So if he would hold up a banner that I don't learn Torah l'shem Shemayim, I don't do this, so that, but he doesn't act that. He doesn't do it that way. So people should really look into it. Not everybody should be fooled by somebody who's might be learned and he doesn't act so. They should realize that he's not learning for the right reasons. The Torah really does refine a person, but he's held responsible because he is acting as if he's a Torah learner, a scholar.
Who said he's acting today's days? They take every boy from the age of 13 till he gets married. And if he does something wrong, then that means Yeshivas.
So the point with Chilul Hashem, it's interesting. The point of Chilul Hashem is what people think of you, not what you really are. It means if a person dresses the way that he looks like a Torah scholar, so then he has to act the part. If he doesn't want to take responsibility for being that, then he has to dress differently. If it becomes that a person who's supposed to act on a higher level, now he's obligated to act on a higher level because people are what people think of him. So that's one of the Yesodos we said in Chilul Hashem over there back also on the kiosk, that Chilul Hashem is graded according to how people perceive you. If they think that you're a scholar, you go to some place where if you have a beer, so you're a Torah scholar, so you have to act like that, even if you know you're not, unless you make a big announcement that I'm ignorant, I'm unlearned, I just I look at, but then he's not making a Chilul Hashem. So that's this Gemara that he's quoting. I just wanted to make a point that the Gemara he's quoting isn't exactly the way that he quotes it. It doesn't say L'Olam Yehei Adam Dibush. It doesn't say it like that. It just says that a person who is Mekadesh Shem Shemayim, that's the way that he acts. A person who speaks calmly to people and he does business honestly. So then people look at him as a Kiddush Hashem and they say, "I want to be like him. I want to teach I want to teach my son Torah." Look at the person like that. Ashrei Aviv, Ashrei Rabbo. I want my children to be like that also. That's a Kiddush Hashem. So we see that that's the proper way to speak. That's the way that people are happy about a person. They see that this is a quality. So the Mesillas Yeshorim is connecting this to humility, that a person who's humble will speak in that way to people. It says it's a pasuk. It's not only Gemara, it's a pasuk also. The pasuk says that the words of the wise are heard calmly. The truth is, I heard a kasha on this proof. The pasuk does say that, But if you look at the whole pasuk, so it's a little bit taken out of context, it seems. You could darshan the pasuk like this, that the words of the wise are spoken benachas, but the pasuk really says that the words of the wise are heard when they're said calmly, more than the mizakas moshel baksilim, something to that effect, that a person who's, even when he screams, but if he's a foolish person talking to fools, so then his screaming is not going to affect what the calm talk of a wise man is going to affect. So the pasuk in its whole simple pshat is not talking about the quality of speaking softly. It's saying that even when a wise man speaks softly, he doesn't have to scream. He does speak softly, and he's going to have more effect on the listeners than a dictator who's going to be screaming and ordering around. So the pasuk is not emphasizing in the whole pshat. The pasuk is not emphasizing the quality of speaking softly. It's saying even if he speaks softly, he can accomplish without screaming. Mashenkin, the person who doesn't have this quality, so then he's going to have to scream, and it's not even going to help. But the Mesillas is just starting the first half of the pasuk. Don't look at the end of the pasuk. Just take this pasuk as a quality of its own, that the words of the wise are heard when they're said calmly. Dafka when they're said calmly, not even when they're said calmly, but dafka when they're said calmly. That's a proper way to speak. So he learned. So the first point he says, the way that a person should speak, a humble person should speak, is calmly. He shouldn't speak screaming. He shouldn't speak ordering. He should speak calmly. Nachas. How come we call the word nachas? Nachas is used always for Yiddish nachas. The word nachas really means calm. So I guess that's that tranquility. The parents have Yiddish nachas. That means that they're calm about their offspring. It's an interesting term that got picked up. We don't look, the connotation we use for the word nachas doesn't mean calm, but that's really what the word shorish, what the root of the word really means.
And what's nachas ruach?
A calm. When a person has nachas ruach, it has something to do with pleasure over there, like a koras ruach. It has something to do with that he has pleasure. But the word literally sounds like the opposite of rage would be nachas. Like nachas, as he's talking about a person speaking calmly. Like this word here, divrei chamim benachas nishmoim, is nothing about what we call the word nachas, pleasure and. But I think that even that, the word that we use as meaning, what's the English word for nachas? Yiddish nachas? No English word for it. So the idea, the connotation, whatever they did, we want to get across, it means pleasure that the parents could take in their children. But the word literally means what?
Does it mean pride?
Pride? Not so. I don't think so. I don't think that's the way it's used. But tranquility, okay, then it will make sense. That the word nachas means calm. So here's talking about the way he speaks. So the first point that he tells us how to speak is calmly. That's the humble way of speaking. Again, we have to connect it that this person, he's going to be speaking humbly, calmly because of his humility. He's making a connection between his inward and his outward, and the fact that he's humble, he doesn't think the world of himself. He knows that he has chesronos. He knows that his qualities were given to him. He knows that he has imperfections, even in his qualities. All of these, and the fact that Hashem gave him all of these qualities, all of this makes him that he should speak calmly. Like he's not one to scream. It doesn't mean that a person never supposed to scream. Sometimes you're supposed to, but it'll be something you'll say. You'll put on an act. Sometimes you have to put on an act in order to scream for the benefit of those listening or not listening. He has to scream, but not that he feels like he's an authority to scream because people are not doing what he wishes. He realizes that he's very limited and he has no reason to scream. So that's the first point of tranquility and calmness. And then the second point of speech, when he speaks, his words are honorable words and not degrading words. When he speaks to people, he doesn't put them down, but he honors them. It has something. It connects to the last point that he says in the last division, that he honors people. But here it's talking about, especially in the way that he speaks words of honor. A person who shames his fellow man, he's a fool. Chasar lev, he's lacking mind, lacking heart. When an evil person walks in, so when he walks in with him comes in also scorn. It's very part of him. As soon as he comes in, he's scorning people. And a person who's a humble person, when he comes in, so an honor comes in. He's going to be honoring people. So that's the first point he makes about speech. 2 points, nachas and kavod. He speaks calmly and honorably, and that's also an offshoot of the fact that he's inwardly humble. Next point, balichaso, the way that he speaks, the way that he walks, his manner is his walking manner, the manner that he walks. You can see a person and say this is a humble way of walking or this is an arrogant way of walking. They sent from there. There means Eretz Yisrael. They sent. There were always people going back and forth from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. So whenever it says Sholchu Mitam, they sent from Eretz Yisrael, means which this was the Chachma, the wisdom that they sent with some shliachs. Either was we find a lot of times Ravin and Rav Dimi, Ula, different people used to go back and forth to bring the news back from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. So they sent Ezo ben Olam Haba. How could you tell who's a person who's going to be in Olam Haba? How could we discern in our world a person who's a Ben Olam Haba, a person who's humble, Anvasan, humble, that's our subject here, Anava, humility, and Shval Berech. The word Berech means a knee, but the point, the low knee, means he doesn't hold himself high, he lowers himself. When he comes in, he comes. Literally, the word shaif means to rub, as if he would be crawling on the floor. He comes in lowly. It means when he comes in, he doesn't make a big noise. He comes in. Whenever he comes in, he comes out. He enters. He exits quietly. That's a simon of a person who's a ben olam haba, and probably the simanim of an anvasan. I can start off anvasan, shval berech, shaif ayil, shaif nafik. So these are the outward mannerisms of a person who's an anvasan, a person who's humble. The way he walks, you can tell by the way he walks that he's walking in a humble way. Since he doesn't think the world of himself, he holds himself limited and lowly, and he compares himself to Hashem. Whatever the points of his inward humility are, that causes that he shouldn't walk in an arrogant way. And that's the opposite of what he's learned in arrogance, that a person who's arrogant will walk in an arrogant way. As he says, if he doesn't walk upright. So it doesn't mean that a person has to walk hunchback, but it means you can tell a person who's walking as if he's on top of the world and no one's on top of him. That's called a kombas kufa. The Gemara says someone who walks in that manner is like he's pushing the Shechina. Not that the Shechina has physical feet, but it means that he doesn't see the Shechina on top of him. A person who is humble, he realizes that Hashem is there, so then he walks as if he's in the presence of a great king. It doesn't mean he goes hunchback, but it means that he doesn't walk with his head up high in the air as if he's on top. He knows that he's not on top. So that's the dochek ragle Shechina, as if he's pushing away the feet of the Shechina. He doesn't realize the Shechina is there. And also he doesn't walk very slowly because it's very heavy. Okay, besad gudal, literally it means the heel by the toe, means when he walks very slowly, a small step at a time. He doesn't take big steps. That's not the humble way of walking. A person who walks very slow, of course, if he can't, he can't. We're not talking about a person who's, because of his age, he can't walk fast. It means a person who's walking because of his heaviness. He considers himself very chashuv, and this was very much described. And there he spoke about the person who's a Baal Gaiva. He described this person that he feels so heavy like lead, and how did he say? That he goes b'kovid rav. Since he's so great, the person on the opposite, on the flip side, that he thinks that he's so honorable and chashuv, that therefore he goes very heavy. Also, b'lichto, b'shifto, b'diburo, b'chol mas, mamish, the opposite of what he's describing over here. He goes b'nachas godol, very slowly. Akevo b'sad gudolo, the same words over here. So this is the person who's a Baal Gaiva. He thinks a lot of himself, so then he walks very slow. Like, why should he worry? He's the one who. Why should he hurry? He's the one who is in charge of everything, and no reason why he should hurry to exert himself. But a person who doesn't think of himself, so then he does feel like he should be hurrying and doing things, and he's on a job. So that's the description of a person who is humble. That he doesn't go become a skufa, he doesn't go with a upright head, and he doesn't go heavily. Like a person is going to business. This is the Rambam. It's not a Gemara, this description, but Holech Lasakav is a Rambam. The Rambam describes how a person is supposed to walk. The way a person is walking in business, like the way you see people walking on a busy street, Malcha Yisrael, something like that. The person is going to business, so he's involved. He's involved in what he's doing. He's not taking it at ease. He doesn't have people as if they're all crowding around him to be machshav him. He's doing his business. He's taking care of his business. That's the proper way to walk. He brings down this Gemara that I mentioned. I must have forgotten that it's right here. I must have seen it just today. And another pasuk that he brings, that those who are high heights, they hold their height high. Giduim, they're going to be chopped down. So I don't know if the pasuk means literally. The Mesillas is taking it literal. It could be figurative. A person who holds himself very high is going to be chopped down. But here he's saying literally also that a person should not walk in an upright way, in a manner that shows that he thinks he's on top of the world. No one's on top of him. That was his issue about how to walk. And the third point is b'shifto, which means how he sits. But as he explains, it's not going to mean how he sits, but as he's going to explain right away, it means where he chooses to sit. Does he sit in a more honorable place, or does he go to a more humble place? When he's in a place of, in a tzibor, in a congregation, in a public place, where does he choose to sit? Does he consider himself chashav that he should go to the front, or he sits in a more humble place? He should sit amongst the lowly people and not amongst the elite. Of course, we're going to say right away that a person who knows that he's supposed to be over there, he's the Rav, he's supposed to surely sit where the Rav's supposed to sit. But he's not looking for it. He's not looking for it. That's not his point. And he doesn't consider himself really deserving. If he has to, he has to. But he's not coming with an inward arrogance that I should be on top. The pasuk says that don't glorify yourself before a king, and in a place of the great, don't stand. I mean, don't push yourself in the place of great people. So again, a person who doesn't consider himself the king, so he's going to lower himself. All of these issues always have to say again and again that sometimes a person is forced into the situation that because of the need, so he's supposed to act in a place of authority and in a seat of authority, wherever it might be. But he's not looking for it. He doesn't want it, and he realizes that he's limited and has a lot of deficiencies, and his qualities are not perfect, and so on. So if he has to, he has to, but doesn't feel himself deserving. The pasuk continues over here again. The Mesillas might be again a drash of some sort, because the pasuk says, "Ki tov amar lecha leiheina me'ashpilcha lefnei nadiv asher ra'u einecha." The pasuk over there says, "Don't push yourself too hard to the front, because they might push you back." It's like giving good advice. It's not saying because of a point of humility. It's saying that it's not smart. If you're going to push yourself to a place which is above you, they might ask you to please take a few rows back. It's better to go to the back, and they'll push you up to the front. And that's the pashut on the pasuk over there. But the Medrash also that he brings right away says the same thing. And over there the Medrash is talking about another. So it seems that a person, because of his humility, that's going to be his point. He's not going to feel himself. So let it really feel small, in order that you'll maybe be pushed up forward, maybe, in the schus of your humility. But don't act arrogant and sit in the place of where you think you might belong, because you might not belong over there, and your arrogance is just telling you that you belong there, and it might be pushed back. So it's good advice also, even if a person is not humble, also would be good advice not to push himself to a place which he might be pushed down from. But here the point he's saying is that a person should be doing this out of humility, that he should always be choshish that maybe he doesn't belong in a more noble place. Chazal say the Medrash, distance yourself 2 or 3 places from where you're supposed to sit. Means even what you consider what's your appropriate place, go a bit back just in case, maybe you're overestimating. Until they tell you go front. You deserve to be in a higher seat. And don't go ahead, and they might tell you to go back. So again, it's the same thing as the pasuk, and the Medrash is describing it a bit more colorful than the pasuk says. But the Medrash over there continues. The way the Mesillas says that true humility. That over there the Gemara talks about, the Medrash talks about Moshe Rabbeinu. That again and again he always didn't push himself ahead. Hashem always told him. It brings a few episodes over there by the sneh, by the bush, and by Mitzrayim, and again by the Ol Moed. I think the Medrash is on the pasuk in the Vayikra Hashem el Moshe. That Hashem had to always call him. He wasn't always there and saying, "Of course I'm here." It was not taken for granted. Moshe even after about 5 times, always Hashem was telling him to go front. He didn't go. He always waited till Hashem called him each time. He didn't consider himself that it goes without saying that I'm going to be in the front. He didn't think of himself in an arrogant way. He was the humblest of all men. And then the rest of the paragraph seems to talk about the last point that he said, Al Kol Tenuosav. He said in the beginning, he gave a list, he enumerated what he's going to talk about in his speech and his walking, in his sitting, and in all of his motions. So he spoke already about the first 3, his speech, that it should be benachas and bekavod, and the way that he walks, it should be not bekom baskufa, not a full height, and also not heavily, but more businesslike. And the third point was where he sits himself, not in the place of the elite, but he goes back a couple of rows in order to be choshish about his low level. And now he talks about chol tenuosav. He doesn't say those words, but l'chara means in all of his mannerisms, he's going to be acting in a humble way. That's not something that doesn't describe each way, and not each movement. You can't describe each movement, but it's saying in all of his movements, he's acting in a way that's noticeable that he's humble. I forgot on the point of this, the third one about sitting, the Mesillas showed earlier when he spoke about arrogance. So he wanted to describe a person who's overdoing it, that he really is arrogant inside, but he wants to act that he's very humble. People should say, besides all of his other qualities, he's also the humblest of men. So over there he says, it describes a person who sits much, much lower. He doesn't just go two or three spots lower. He goes to the back. He really belongs to someplace up front, according to whatever his level, but he goes all the way to the back. That he should say, people will say about him, he makes it very conspicuous that he's humble. That's also not considered appropriate. Appropriate is two, three spots, rows lower, not extreme to the shvolim v'nivzim. He doesn't go to the place where it's mamash out of his realm. And that's the side point. And the last thing is Val kol makten atzmo omru chazal kol mi shemakten atzmo al divrei Torah b'olam hazeh nasa gadol olam haba. This is a general description of a person who's makten atzmo, that he lowers himself. It doesn't say about any specific action, but in general that he lowers himself. He acts in a lowly way. And Chazal say that anybody that does that in this world is going to become great in olam haba. So he's taking that, it seems, as a general instruction for a person to act humbly. But again, there's a small kasha on the Mesillas Shalom again, because over there it says al divrei Torah. He's doing it because of divrei Torah. The simple pshat in the Chazal over there is not talking about humility. It's talking about that a person is willing to lower himself in order to get divrei Torah. Divrei Torah is so chashuv to him that he's willing to make himself low. Let's say one example would be to learn from somebody that's less than him. So a person who's holds to his level, so he's not going to ask somebody that's lower than him. But a person who's machshav divrei Torah so much, so if someone has a diamond, even if he's not as rich as I, but I want to have benefit of that diamond also. So a person who's machshav divrei Torah, so he's willing to lower himself in order to get the divrei Torah. So the simple Chazal over there is talking about the appreciation of divrei Torah. That's the reason why he's lowering himself, not because of the midah of humility. But the Mesillas Shalom does seem to connect it. What's the connection? It might be that a person who is arrogant, he won't be able to do this. He has to have humility in order to be able. Maybe it's connection of both things together. That he appreciates divrei Torah, so he's willing to lower himself. But if he'd be arrogant, it's hard for him to do that. The combination of being humble and also together with the appreciation of divrei Torah, then it's possible to lower oneself. But here you do see a general description, makten atzmo. So that's going to be in general, not about the way he speaks, not about the way he walks, but a general way of lowering himself in whatever comes up. Another Gemara, this opposite Gemara. The Gemara said that somebody who acts arrogant in this world, so he's going to be small in olam haba. Don't judge by the gradation in this world of what it's going to look like in olam haba. It could be that somebody here is considered a very honorable and esteemed person. It could be in olam haba. He's not going to be. So over there it says that hasir masnefes, that they could take off the crown. That somebody who acts on a high level, he'll be lowered in olam haba. And from that, the Mesillas Shalom deduces from there you could deduce the opposite, that a person who lowers himself in this world, so the time of his greatness is going to be in olam haba. Again, the way that he acts in this world is a way of humility, so that's a schus that he should become great in olam haba. So, but you see that a person acts outwardly also, the outward action of humility. The last Gemara is that he brings Lo Lam Yilmad Adam Midas Kono Shavei Yeniach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kol Harim Ukvos V'Yishvish Chinos Al Har Sinai. The famous Gemara, everybody knows it. The children come home from school with this, that from all the mountains that Hashem chose to give the Torah, He chose Har Sinai. Har Sinai is a mountain, but it's not the highest mountains. And you would think that Hashem is giving the Torah, so it deserves to be on the highest of mountains. But Hashem wanted to teach the issue of anava, humility, and the Torah goes to those that are low. And the Gemara makes many drushes about this point of humility, that the Torah, this is not a subject about the Torah, but the Torah rests on those that are low. The Gemara says a few Mishalom over there about liquids, that they always go to the lowest point. Even if you pour it on a high point, it's going to go to the lowest point. So that's a mashal for divrei Torah. They only settle in a lowly person, a person who's humble and arrogant, lowly and humble. But a person who's arrogant, the Torah doesn't stay on him. It doesn't have to do only with wisdom, even though he's very wise. But if he's arrogant, the Torah is not going to take root in him. But a person who's humble, the Torah will rest over there. So Har Sinai was an expression of that Hashem showed that the Torah rests on a lower place. Of course, it was a mountain; it wasn't a valley, but it wasn't the highest ones that you would expect it to be. Chazal that say that this pasuk of Mikel Kamocha, so the pasuk shot l'sheres nachlaso means the remnant of his heritage, means the Am Yisrael. That's whatever is remaining of Am Yisrael. The sheres nachlaso. But the Gemara Darshans, sheres means like the shirayim, like the sheriyot, the leftovers. That a person who considers himself leftovers. He doesn't consider himself the main course, he considers himself like the leftovers. That's all expressions of a person who doesn't consider himself praiseworthy. He knows that he has deficiencies, and because of that, he lowers himself. So this is a here you might say that it's a mental attitude. I would have thought maybe. I would not have seen in this last Chazal that it's something outward, but Mesim Asma Kishvarim, the Mesillas Shram sees over here that also it's the way that he's making himself. He places himself like Shivayim also in his outward actions, that he acts in a lowly way. So all this was the first category that he calls his snaig v'shiflos. We said his lowly disposition, his mannerism, the way that he acts. And this is the first division of the outward acts of a humble person. The next one is bisvol el bonos. He's able to tolerate insult. So we said a few times already that this humble person, even though he's truly humble, he still knows the difference between him and the other person. He does know that he's more than the other person. So it is possible to insult him. It's not like he's above all insult because he's the lowest. He knows that he has a quality, and it's possible to insult him because you're acting towards him less than he really deserves. So there is an insult, but he's able to tolerate the insult. The person who has humility, according to the way that he prescribed what humility means, just to chaz over the 5 points that he said, that a person realizes that even if he has great qualities, but he also has deficiencies, he has other chesronos that dim his perfection, and also even in his quality alone, it's not perfect. His quality is also limited and restricted. He's not perfect in that quality either, and also this is his natural, inborn quality that is, he was born that way. So it's not something as dafka deserves praise. He has it. Somebody else would have had the same thing. They would have been switched. They would have switched the parts. The other person will be the rich or the smart or the powerful. So he doesn't take something personally that he's deserving of praise. And the next point was that he looks at it as an assignment that he's responsible for taking care of other people. If he has these qualities, he's supposed to use it to share it for others. If he's wise, he's supposed to share his wisdom, or if he's wealthy, to share his wealth. Whatever it is, take care of other people that need him. And the other point was that everything that he has is God-given, that Hashem gave it to him as a present. So on the contrary, not only doesn't he feel humble, doesn't he feel arrogant, he feels shamed that Hashem is giving him a handout. And a person who has something which he didn't deserve, he feels lowly, he feels shamed and embarrassed. So when a person has all of those inward humble attitudes, so then even if someone's going to insult him, and really beneath his dignity, it is an insult. I just wanted to make the point that it is an insult. It's not that it's not an insult. It is an insult. Somebody treated him beneath his dignity, but he's able to tolerate it, even though he was mistreated. But he's able to tolerate it because he's thinking to himself about, I have deficiencies and I'm not perfect and I have assignment. And
what does tolerate mean?
Which word?
Tolerate.
Tolerate?
He's able to tolerate. What does that mean?
He would
respond, or
it could be. Well, he wouldn't get upset. He wouldn't. Right. He wouldn't lose himself.
But inside, he's still going to feel.
He knows that he was mistreated. He was mistreated. But there's one point of tolerating it in a way that he's not going to respond, like you said. He's not going to scream back. He's not going to fight back. He's able to swallow it. That's how we would say. He's able to swallow it. Doesn't mean that he feels the person mistreated him. Yes, the person mistreated him. It doesn't mean he's not going to talk to him anymore. No, he'll talk to him. He knows that the other person has chesronos. A person who realizes that people are not perfect, he knows that a person has a problem with anger, and he lost himself and he's wrong. He doesn't have to have a warped mind to think, oh, he's right and I'm wrong. No, I know I'm right and he's wrong. But okay, so that's what it is. So he has compassion on him, that he didn't learn the Mesillas Yeshorim, but he's not holding where he's holding.
Yeah, but the person does it over and over and over.
It doesn't mean that he has to continue letting himself being. He should do whatever he has to do in order to stop it, but he's not taking it, as you say, personally. The point would be that he's not going to lose himself. The person we spoke about the different subjects. We spoke about anger and arrogance and kas. Kina, right? Jealousy. We had different issues that all of them could have the same symptoms. You might have different root. The root, you go to the doctor sometimes, so the symptom is the same. He has fever, but what does that fever mean? So it can have different shorish. So here, a person losing himself might be.
Doesn't let it get to him.
Get to him. Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes it's natural.
Means intellectually he knows that he knows the facts. Intellectually that he was insulted, the person is less than him, and he doesn't understand. But he doesn't lose himself or get to him, meaning that it doesn't take him over.
Right.
He doesn't lose his balance. Sometimes it's natural.
Sometimes naturally people.
Yeah, but the natural is that a person's supposed to. He's supposed to naturally improve his midos.
Controlling himself, that's the easier part.
Right, but he's controlling also inside his feelings. He's controlling his emotions, not only his actions. He's not going to throw a can at it.
After the dust is settled, that's where the issues start. That's where,
right.
It's still difficult to, especially if a person being doing it on a regular basis.
Right. So I think that there's two issues. I mean, there's a distinction. Is it a person that you are having a relationship with, or a person that you don't have to have a relationship with? If it's a person that you have nothing to do with, but you were insulted by him, so okay, but a person that you're having a relationship, so then there's not the subject there, but it's important to communicate, and that's a different subject. That the secret of having a relationship is learning how to communicate. And it's a wisdom. There's a book that someone gave to me, a very good book. Crucial Communication. Something like that. Is that it? Crucial Communications? Crucial Conversations. That's the name of the book. Crucial Conversations. It's supposed to be a bestseller, and the way it started was the group of men that wanted to learn how to, in business, the successful businessmen. So they started making studies about successful businessmen. And they went from all the big companies and asked who's the most important person in this company. They asked around all the workers. You have like General Motors. I don't know if it still exists anymore, but whatever these big companies, with 1,000 people, and they would ask which person makes the difference over here. And they would always go to each company and find that person and ask if they could watch him for a couple of days and be with him. And they found across the board that it was a person who knew how to communicate. He knew the art of communication, and then they, instead of doing what they wanted to do, they ended up writing a book on this issue of communications. And I think it's a beautiful book. I think it has a lot of beautiful yisodas that would help very much in any kind of relationship. They're talking about businesses, but it doesn't mean after businesses. It can mean personal relationships that could be very helpful in family life, and also maybe internationally. Also, they want to do international. They talk about Israel, and they don't realize there's differences besides the communication over there. Israel Arab is not going to help to communicate. But the issue when communication is a problem, it's very important to be able to learn how two people or two groups should be able to get together and feel comfortable, to have a common pool. We're both interested in getting understanding over here, and obviously right now we're starting off, we don't understand each other, so we want to be able to make a setting where both of us will be able to express ourselves, and till the other one understands us. It's a beautiful idea. If people learn how to communicate, it's probably in marriage one of the most important tools. Not that it's the essence of marriage, but it's a very important tool to be able to communicate. And differences always come up, and if they feel a comfort zone that they could sit at a table and each one express themselves in a calm way until the other one understands them, doesn't have to agree, but to be able to understand, so then a lot of problems would be cleared up. But that's the only way a person you're interested in having a relationship with. If it's somebody who insulted you that you have nothing to do with them, so okay, I feel bad for the person, and I don't have time to communicate with each person. I'm not building a relationship with everybody. But according to the necessity, according to the need and the importance to you, how much you want to have a relationship with somebody, so it's important to open up the lines of communication. Once both sides learn how to do it, so they have the lines of communication are open. And even when something comes up, okay, we'll sit by the shulchan diyunim. I don't know how you say that in English, but it means by the table, around the table, and we'll discuss it. And it comes to an understanding. And that's a great success in being able to talk things out. And we know we're starting off on a difference of opinion, and we're going to understand each other. It could be after we understand each other. It could be that the misunderstanding is now going to be understood. That not only will it be understood, maybe they'll agree also. But even if they don't agree, but if they're understood, it really takes away the animosity, and it'll stop the insult also. It'll stop whatever that caused that insult. They'll probably stop it. Sometimes a person doesn't even realize that he's insulting the other one. They don't realize how the other one is taking it. They're coming from two different mindsets. That's also important to put on the table. So that's not his subject now, because he's just talking about the ability to tolerate. A person who's arrogant, he's not able to tolerate it. He's not able to swallow it and go on. He explodes. So the person who's humble will be able to tolerate the insult.
we come back and say that the person was insulted, that he thinks, okay, the other guy doesn't know better, that's fine for me, but why isn't so that I think, okay, magia li to be insulted?
Not always is it magia lo. A person might think that. A person would think.
It that it means that he's humble, that he says, okay, he doesn't know better.
Again, if a person is saying that it's magia li, I'm deserving of it, what does that mean? From his point of view, or from Hashem's point of view? He's saying Hashem sent it to me. The person insulted me.
But I'm so humble. I mean, I'm so nothing that whatever they tell me, it's right. I'm not.
But it's not true. No, I think it's not true. I think that's.
I know that I'm something. But
yes, right. I think that the whole point of humility, the Mesillas Shalom didn't say that he has no qualities. He knows he has qualities. Let's say he's a professor, and somebody treats him like the janitor. So is he supposed to think I'm really a janitor, or he's supposed to know I'm a doctor, I'm a professor, I'm the Rosh Machlaka, I'm the head of the division, and he's talking to me like. So we're not asking somebody to be illogical. I think it's a big chiddush that the point of Mesillas Shalom is that humility is not fooling himself. It's with all the truth. All the truth is on the table, and he's still able to be humble. He knows he's the Rosh Machlaka, and he's still able to be humble. He might have to fire this person who's acting with disrespect, but it doesn't mean that in the actions there's another point. What he has to do, that's a different subject. The person who's not supposed to desire sitting in the front, sometimes he's the Rav or the president, he has to sit in the front. But his mindset inside is always that I have plenty of chasronos, the president of the United States, whatever. I'm not talking about him personally, I just mean the position. That a person who has a very top position, ideally, he would be thinking that he's has many deficiencies, makes mistakes, he's human, and Hashem has showered him with this great present of such prestige. He has to take the office and sit in the front. He can't go in the back. He has to go in the front. But if he'd be this humble person, he would be thinking the whole time that I'm undeserving of this great honor. I have so many deficiencies. Okay, I got to do what I have to do. And if he has to act in a very strong way, David HaMelech was very humble, but he acted like a king. And when somebody had to be chopped down, he chopped him down. So I think this point also would apply to tolerating insult, that he's able to tolerate it, but he knows that he knows his qualities. He doesn't think that he's nothing. He knows what he is, but he's still able to tolerate it as much as is called for. To who does Hashem forgive? The person who forgives others. This maybe we'll stop here, but just to make a point of this, has to do with the Aseret Yeshuvah now, that the Mesillas Shalom brings this as and the Rabbeinu Yonah brings it even as a Pesach Nichbad, as a honorable escape, so to speak, that a person could be Zocher B'din, that he could get merit in judgment. Everyone's looking to have merit in judgment, and there's an issue about Midas Hadin, that there's a day of judgment. Rosh Hashanah is a day of judgment, so how could a person ask for compassion on the day of judgment? It's supposed to be din, not dafka rachamim. So the Mesillas Shalom brings this down as a mashal, that sometimes a person deserves compassion. If he acts with other people beyond the letter of the law, and he forgives them even though they wronged him, so now he deserves compassion. Not that he's getting compassion from Hashem, and Hashem is going to be mevater, as they say in Hebrew, but he deserves the vitor. Since he's mevater to others, since he's foregoing to others, so then he deserves that they should be foregoing to him also. So this is an example. This is something to do with us. The Aseret Yeshuvah now. That's a claim that a person should deserve compassion from Hashem if he's compassionate to others and he forgives others even though they wronged him. He'll deserve in Midas Hadin, even he'll deserve. Now already it's past Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is only then. Afterwards, now Yom Kippur, we're ready towards Rachamim. But Rosh Hashanah itself is din, and he says this is a mashal that a person can sometimes deserve Rachamim. He deserves al pi din. He deserves Rachamim b'din. He deserves compassion al pi din. It means it's coming to him compassion. So take it now to our issue that a person who forgives others, he's deserving of forgiveness. So the Mesillas Shalom is using this as another reason why a person should be able to, not a reason about humility, but that a person is able to tolerate insult. It's a benefit of tolerating insult, that a person who does that, so Hashem is going to tolerate him. It's a very interesting thing that people, when you see in human interaction, and then you apply it between man and God, it has a different effect. Just came up. One of the children showed they didn't appreciate what another child was doing for them. One of the children is taking care of the other one, and they always takes care, and the younger child showed very much disappreciation. Really extreme. So the older child said that this is what we do to Hashem. Hashem gives us everything, and we don't see it. But the child felt it because felt so unappreciated. The whole time I'm doing, taking care of her little brother, and nothing, like I didn't do anything. So she was mature enough to say that we should learn this from ourselves. Hashem is giving us everything, and we don't appreciate it. We're like this. We like this. When you see it in the human interaction, so then it makes much more of an effect. So here, that's this point about people between each other to forgive, even though they wronged, but to forgive them. So then Hashem will act to us the same way. We're able to evoke Hashem's actions towards us the way we treat others also.
Oh yeah, very nice.
Yeshikach.